How to build a Blackgates Sweet Pea 5-inch gauge locomotive. This is part 10. Carefully reprofiling the rear cast iron wheels using my small Warco WM180 lathe, followed by some very nice things in my workshop. The original trailing wheels on this part-built Sweet Pea were terrible. The machining was fairly diabolical, and also they were a little bit thick around the rim. When I looked at them, they reminded me of roller skates, so I'm going to trim them down a little bit, get rid of the bad turning and improve them, hopefully. I have 3 lathes in the main workshop, and they're all better than this one, but I thought it would be a good idea to show this operation on a very small, modest lathe. The good thing about this lathe that I like a lot is the infinitely variable speed. When machining cast iron, particularly in a small lathe, do not do it like this. The speed is far too high. The tool is chattering and the finish on the wheel is very bad. This is not helped by the quality of the tool post, which is made from aluminium and is a little bit weedy really, but I bought it for this machine because I do not intend to do serious metalwork on this. Also, purposely, the cutting tool is sticking miles too far out of the tool post. And all these factors, too high a speed and the tool sticking out too far on a very weak tool post, well, you're really asking for trouble. To be honest though, when I adjusted the spindle speed to this speed that you see here, everything was fine. It made the right noise and I got a good finish on the work. It's fitted with a carbide tip tool, and this is not particularly sharp either, but it still does the job. Currently the finish on the wheel tread is not all that good, but it is after all a wheel tread and it will soon become smooth when it runs on the track. However, if I adjust the cutting tool to a sensible position, I really think that there will be a marked improvement. I want to chamfer the edge of the flange, because it's no good if the flange is perfectly square, as it's likely to dig into the track, and in certain circumstances it could cause the wheel set to derail. It's never a good idea to leave the flange too thick. Don't forget, generally on a miniature railway there are points, and if the flange is too thick, it's going to go through the points badly. I finished the job off using a small file, and now the profile of this flange is a lot better. I need to repeat the process on both wheels. Before I do that, to give this tool post a fighting chance, I'm moving the tool further into the tool holder. And now the finish on the cast iron is much better. As I mentioned earlier, I do like the variable speed on this machine. It's a bit of a pain to change the speed of the traverser because it doesn't have a gearbox. But I'm quite happy with this speed, and the lathe is cutting very well indeed. I've nearly got to the end of the badly turned part. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I couldn't live with it the way it was, and also now the rim of the wheel is a bit more scale-like. As I reduce the diameter of the wheel, I re-chamfer the outer part. This is the final cut on the first wheel, and it looks a whole lot better than it did. Once I'd done one side, I turned the wheel set around in the lathe and did exactly the same with exactly the same settings at the other end. I cleaned up the job with a file and then some wet to dry sandpaper, and now both of the wheels look pretty much like each other. You may be wondering if this job is actually very precise. Well, it's precise enough for what it is. The wheel set rolls up and down the bench and doesn't stop in any particular place, so I would say it's okay. The mounting assembly for this trailing axle is a bit of a joke. The flat metal plates are okay, but the parts that support the axle boxes definitely need some attention. I'll do this at a later date. I intend to repaint the black parts of the wheels, and even though I'm showing a tin of black gloss paint, I'll probably use satin paint. More about this in a future episode. I always seem to have a problem with paintbrushes. They start off okay, I will buy a set of paintbrushes and they're fine, and slowly but surely the bristles become less flexible. I asked a friend of mine, Michelle Davis, who's an artist, what is commercially available to stop this from happening, and she told me about this stuff. Not only does it clean the brushes, it reconditions them, and the bristles remain flexible. For certain models I prefer brush painting to spraying, because the original full-size items generally weren't sprayed, they were coach painted and then varnished over the top. And this is a sort of finish I generally look for. I do want some sort of brush marking, but very, very small, not like mountains and valleys. For varnish applications, I often use a piece of cloth, but I used to get the best result using high-quality flat paintbrushes, thinning the paint very carefully, just enough so it doesn't run. To finish this episode, I'd like to show you these. They were a Christmas present from my daughter Charlotte, and with her partner Dan, they have a website called the Woodland Gift Company.com. Recently, I've been put on a drug to reduce my testosterone before going for radiotherapy on my prostate. I would just like to mention that my low testosterone is nothing to do with the fact that I like these, because I liked them before I went on the drug, which radically lowers my testosterone level. So it's nothing to do with me becoming more feminine. Believe me, I am not becoming any more feminine at all. I liked them when I first saw them last year. They're like small hot air engines, good things to have in the workshop. You light the candle and they just spin round like this. Very, very tranquil. There are currently 4 different types available, and the only difference between them really are the metal charms that are hung from the fans. The other good thing is, when you run them in the light, they reflect nice little white dots all over the room. I didn't show that because the ceiling of my room, the workshop, is covered in oil. I have this long display cabinet on the wall, and it holds a Royal Scot locomotive and a load of coaches in double O gauge. Here's a better shot. You can see the locomotive and the carriages and the really nice backdrop. That is it for this episode. I'll leave you with this image of the very nice things on top of the display cabinet. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.